Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast number 36. In today's podcast, we have decided to do something a little bit different. So we have again Désirée on the podcast. She will be our recurring co-host in some of the episodes. And so we have decided to do something very different to break down a topic. Today's topic is how to be more focused and how to be more, accountable with yourself and work towards your goals. We're gonna talk about some things that I started to do since the beginning of the year, which is bullet journaling. It's an interesting method. If you don't know about it, I suggest you to check the link in the description of this podcast to get familiar with it. And if you know about it, so I'm glad you're informed about this topic and you're already getting after your goals and you're more self-aware. And so I hope you like this format. And again, before we start the podcast, I want to remind you that since the beginning of the year, we have also launched a newsletter, which will be a monthly newsletter with sum up of what was the best of the month. And this is also a way for you to not be forced to listen all the podcast episodes if they're too long for you. So if you don't want to listen to them, you'll have like bullet points, which is the best part of each podcast. And you can decide to go and listen singularly to each podcast. Or if you have listened to the podcast, you will have sum up on what you have heard and what was the best of according to what is our opinion. So I suggest you to go on the creativeinsider.com and subscribe our newsletter if you want to take advantage of this new opportunity. And before we start the podcast, I also want to say happy birthday to my brother Ivo, because he has his birthday today. So happy birthday, bro. Turning 19, getting old. Okay, so let's roll on and enjoy the podcast.
The whole world stops just like that.
Hello, Désirée.
Hi.
Hi, so thank you for being my co-host in this new episode of the Creative Insider, of this new podcast. In this podcast, we're trying to do something that was sort of the spirit of the very first 6 episodes or 7 episodes, because you were the first guest on the podcast. So we're gonna do a little chat about breaking down some specific topic, and I'm very curious to see how our listeners gonna react to this. So that because we wanted to tell stories, but we also wanted to discuss some topics about creatives when the podcast started, and so I think it's nice to have once in a while a little bit of these episodes. Maybe if the listeners enjoy it very much, they can tell us, and then we can do like 2 podcasts a week. So we can do one like this one and one where we have our weekly guest, the creative of the week, and then we discuss it.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today? Today we did a little bit of a recap of last year before the New Year's Eve. And as most of the people, the beginning of the year means, like having new plans, new strategies, being very motivated for the year. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. How do you usually start your year? Do you do sort of plans and strategies for your year? How do you approach the beginning of the year?
I always start with a mindset, sort of like, what do I want to achieve in that year? But I usually start in November with my planning and strategy for the year ahead. But I think January is actually a pretty good time too, because you've already started the new year. You're in the first few days, and you have a lot of new energy that comes from the year switching. So yeah, I think I start with a mindset, and then I start with recapping what went well, what do I want to change, where do I want to pivot.
Well, I wanted to discuss about this because the last few days we have been also talking here between us at home about the weird times we're living in, because it was a particular year last year.
Yeah.
And here in Germany, where we're living currently, the year isn't starting great because apparently soon, probably next week, it's going to be announced the mega hard lockdown, which I don't know what it means, because we are currently in lockdown, everything is closed, but apparently the cases of the virus aren't going down, so our chancellor it's considering doing something more. And what I've been thinking is that since this whole weird situation started, I've been affected by it, because in the beginning we were very scared in general around the world.
Well, yeah, insecure. It was like you didn't know what was going on. So I think it was you were unsure about, how vital is this? How dangerous is this? What does this mean for me personally?
I was particularly scared actually, because, I started having the news in advance from Italy, where my family lives.
Yeah.
And I was really scared, and I was like shocked because nobody was doing things here, and I was afraid that this virus is very, very deadly. And then the lockdown hit here too, and then I don't know. I think that when these conditions of lockdown and social distancing persisted for a long time, I sort of felt out of track, because I don't know. I felt like we couldn't go out really. We couldn't go work out at the gym. We couldn't do things. So I was like, I'm just going to let myself, I don't know. I don't know if you have...
Yeah, let yourself go in a way, sort of.
Well, in a way that I cannot work out, so why should I even try at all? I don't know. Now the economy is going down. I shouldn't work on a business, because why should I?
Yeah, it was a lot of waiting around for clarity to come, I feel. I don't know, I felt I was constantly waiting for there to be a clear direction, and a direction never really clearly formed.
Yeah, and then we were affected also in any field of long-term planning you do normally, because last year, in the beginning of the year, the 2 months which were still normal and cool, I remember we did our planning for the whole year, where we wanted to travel. We wanted to go first in Paris.
Yeah.
We wanted to go then in the States. We wanted to visit East Coast. We wanted to do New York, Boston, Philadelphia, DC, then go to Chicago, then come back. We wanted to visit Rome. We wanted to visit Bulgaria. We wanted to visit a lot of parts, and then...
It seems like such a long time ago that we made those plans. It's crazy. It's totally... we did our holiday planning last week, and it's interesting how the priorities completely shifted this year. It's like we don't know what's going to happen yet, but we're just going to make sure that we visit family, because that's the most important thing at the moment. And
last year, actually, I was thinking that in 2020, I wasn't at all on Italian soil, and the last time we traveled was together when we flew back from Bulgaria to Germany. It's crazy how sometimes watch videos or movies on YouTube, and it's weird how in 1 year, what seemed to be very normal daily life, people in a comedy club or in a pub gathering together, one above each other almost, and all packed. And now this is like, oh no, like even like I feel, I don't know, if I sometimes feel stressed by just seeing, too many people close together.
Yeah.
So it's
but I think also the priorities in our professional lives have completely changed. We talk a lot about creativity and business and career, and I think last year really you had to take other things into account. It was very, very shifting. I feel that we're starting this year with a completely different understanding of where we want to go.
Yeah, but the thing is, I had like an uplifting moment last year when the first wave was over and we could go around again. And then I felt like, okay, it's over now. It's going to be normal. It's not going to be like a second lockdown. We will be able to at least travel a little bit. But then we decided to move. So traveling wasn't the smartest thing because we had like deadlines and it wasn't good to risk. And then the second wave kicked in, and then I think there is where I felt more like I was still doing this podcast, but I was more like whatever. I didn't read that much. I just constantly sort of wanted to evade my mind, to evade my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I started, I don't know, binge watching Netflix, binge watching YouTube videos. Meaningless scrolling through Instagram, through LinkedIn. I don't know. I didn't care that much about my diet. I don't know. I wasn't really like getting after any of my goals.
Well, it was more difficult. It was like on the one hand the stress of what is going on, and on the other hand, I don't know, I felt like also a pressure. I have to do something. I have to produce something. I still have to be active. But then it was like, okay, but where am I going to be active? Is that even valuable in any way? What are we doing now? What did we used to do? I thought it was really confusing also. It's like, where am I getting my inspiration? I actually had to really search new places that were providing me with interesting stuff.
Yeah, but I think that all this, in my case, started to add upon it, like this constant unproductivity sort of gathered. And, yesterday I read something about, inertia, like it's the resistance of an object to change speed and direction according to its mass. Probably the definition is not exactly like this, but the concept is that when you start like piling up unproductivity and negativity, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you decide you want to go back on track, it requires more and more energy to...
Yeah, it's harder to fight back, yeah.
Yeah, to create momentum, which is like this corp of mass needs to start moving. So you need to kind of push harder to get it into movement.
Yeah, but you started, I think it was in November or something, you started getting up really early to sort of force yourself to do a few things. I remember that.
Yes, but I don't know. I wasn't as efficient as I wanted because, I don't know, I would wake up, it was really cold. Then I would like go to the restroom and then come back in the living room, and instead of starting reading, I got my phone, and then the algorithm of YouTube or whatever took my attention. Then after, like unconsciously, there were 40 minutes through, and then you were waking up, and then I was like, okay, now I need to do other.
See, I thought you were like super productive all morning, and then I'd get up and think, oh, he is so great that he gets up in the morning. That is just wow.
Yeah, I thought it's okay. I'm not doing stuff, but I'm gonna punish myself. Like, okay, you don't get to do stuff, but you get to wake up early. So it's sort of still sort of a discipline. At least I was getting up early. A couple I would say 30%, 20% of the times I really did, like, I don't know, I went for a jog, or I read, but never took momentum, which like was consistency or some. Um, but then I think that with the progressing of the weird situation, I started kind of get used to it. First thing I stopped doing is like checking the news. Like, I would be like, in the beginning, we watch also one video recently, a comedy stand-up on YouTube of a guy that was saying that in the beginning we were like checking the websites. I don't remember what it's called, the guy, the comedian, but he was making this joke where he said like everybody would go on the coronavirus worldometer and check where the country is and be like, oh my God, we're doing worse than this shit country. Like what? How is that possible? So I was checking it on a daily basis, and then I was like, I guess it's not gonna change that much, so I'm not gonna check it. I'm checking it like once in a while, and I check the news once in a while just to see if we need to follow new rules or different rules. And I stopped checking the news that much, and then slowly I started getting used to it and saying, okay, because for example, in the end, our goal of last year, I told you our goal is to survive this year.
Well, we did that.
Yeah. And sort of my goal for last year was, okay, we're gonna just go with the flow until the end of the year. And that's the limit we can accept, like of not being so,
lethargic and confused and slow and
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive, but the year is not starting, great. But I still thought, okay, I don't care. Whatever it happens, 2021, we start living again. We need to start dreaming again. We need to start planning again. We need to start working again. We need to start, focus on our lives and carry on in a positive way, be productive, and, move on.
Yeah, and a little more action maybe. I feel last year, like when the pandemic started, like in spring, there was like too much actionism and reactionism to what's going on. And then during the summer and fall, it sort of like the curve went down and there wasn't that much new things happening, new things being done that is really new and innovative and valuable in some way. And now I really think we have to take all the ideas that we have in our head that we read about maybe last year or over the holidays now and put them into reality and sort of, give ourselves a boot kick.
Yeah, and also stop, waiting for the virus to be gone or being more like, whatever. And now nothing is good, everything is bad. I mean, it's not optimal, but I think that as we got used to it, when they put you constantly in a stress situation, you stop being that stressed. It's like it becomes kind of normal.
Well, I don't think you stop being stressed, but you just get used to the stress, and your stress threshold gets higher.
Exactly,
sort of.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if they keep it constant stress like it was, it is just stop caring. And by now we know, I mean, at least I know a couple of people that got the virus. And I mean, luckily, if you're young, it's not that bad. Like probably you're going to kick it out in a couple of weeks. And by some people, it's not even that bad. But, I think older people are very much to be protected. But the thing here is that, I wanted to fight back this situation, and when I want to take action, I think the first thing to do is, taking the first small step towards getting better. And I saw that this mountain of negativity and being lazy was piling up bigger, and I was like, okay, what is the biggest reason for this? And the biggest reason is like, I think it was for me, especially personally, was my very big presence on social media, but not meaningful. So not to take inspiration or to communicate with people, was more like just to keep my mind occupied with something so that I don't have time to think about the negative things. Like listening to videos, even if I didn't like them, scrolling to Instagram, checking. Now they did the Reels thing, where you can show this short video, listen to a bunch of Joe Rogan podcasts, even if some of those weren't that good. And
you sort of get in a rut somehow. But I think it's interesting how people are different, because for me, what I did a lot of last year was, especially at the end of last year, was really read more, spend more time looking at new kinds of authors or studies or things like that. And when I was, when I had time on my hands, I would think about, okay, why am I being affected by this and this that much? I was really more evaluating and looking for the reasons that I'm in this and this mood, or that I'm not doing this and this. Like, I was really trying to analyze that.
I didn't want to do that. And that's why I wanted to shut off my mind. And sometimes I have so many thoughts that I think, okay, to just, I'll keep my wheels in my head, the mechanical turning towards something that just occupies my mind. But the problem is that we watch also, The Social Dilemma, the documentary. So I was like, well, but that's not really cool. What if I cannot get out of this wheel anymore?
Well, especially the inspiration is probably, there's nothing new going to come at you, but always something similar to what you're already looked at. And I mean, we couldn't go to museums or do anything. So we were so reliant on the social channels, on other people showing what they're doing.
Or you cannot just meet friends or, go just to a coffee, go normally to a walk, because you always need to wear your mask.
But how did you get out of that rut? I think it was around Christmas, right? Around the holidays, when we had time off, that you said, okay, something has to change.
Yeah, so during the holidays, before the holidays, we had 2.5 weeks holiday. I decided, okay, this is the time where I'm off work. I had pre-recorded all the podcasts that were supposed to be released during the holidays. And I was like, now I have the time to concentrate on this thing and to start taking action. And I decided, okay, I know because I've been in situations like this before, that the first time is going to be very, very hard, because it's like you just don't want to. You just gotten into this sort of in your habits, bad habits, and you need a lot of willpower in the beginning. You need really it's like a rocket lift off. You need a little bit of a big,
really good push.
A good push in the beginning.
Big jam,
and then you can take momentum. And then I thought, okay, this time I have to face this thing in more like planned way. So when I don't know how to face something, I always read some books about the topic, so that I can, have the expertise on someone that's smarter enough to tell me how to deal with it. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna read a book from Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism, because I've read a book from Cal Newport called Deep Work, which is really good. And I said, this guy writes really nice books, because they're not like self-help productivity books, but they're actually sort of like a manual, like how to approach this problem. And then, as many of the listeners might have heard in like past podcasts, I started loving podcasts because of Joe Rogan and because of Matt D'Avella. And on Matt D'Avella's podcast, The Ground Up Show, once there was this guy, Ryder Carroll. I still don't know if he's Austrian or American. I know that he's a graphic designer, web designer, but he's famous because he created this journaling method, which is called the bullet journal method. And I've practiced this journaling in the past, but I always been inconsistent. And and then I decided, okay, this year, I know he has written a book, which is called the Journal Bullet Method. I decided to buy the book, and I also decided to buy the official bullet journal from Leuchtturm. And because I have this thing when I was a kid also, like it took me a little bit while to, when I started something new, it was cool, but I always loved the gadgets. So when I played football, I needed to have like the coolest soccer boots, or when I played tennis, I needed to have a cool racket or the cool outfit.
But I think a lot of people are like that. It's like you're accessorizing for what you think cool, so you can you're trying to set yourself up from the outside to actually do that thing that you want to do. So, but you have to set your mind up too. So
yes. Well, when I was a kid, my parents hated this thing because they were like, if you like something, you should start because you like it. And when you get a little better, we're going to take you the gadgets. But now that I spend my own money, I was like, okay, this is not that much money. And I was like,
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to
go for it.
Accessorize all the...
No, I said, it's at least a way, if you spend money on a book and on a notebook, you don't want, it's sort of like, okay, now I have to use it.
Yeah. And I mean, you learned the first time that you had to actually commit to do it 100% if you were going to actually understand if it works. Like you said before, you did it like semi-right. And I mean, if you're going to do it the way he thought, and then start tweaking at the method if you need to.
Yeah, but before we go into the method, I decided first, I was like, always like, because I want to be cool. I want to be a little bit of like cool and hipster. Swaggy, yeah. I wanted to be like one of those guys like, I use for everything Notion because it's so cool. And then I have now like a tablet at home. So I was thinking I'm going to have my Notion on my tablet and I'm going to be like, look how productive I am. And like I started using Notion, which is cool. But then I was like using Notion for 10 minutes and then we're like, okay, now let's go on Instagram and YouTube and whatever. And I thought, okay, it's not the greatest idea to start being, productive on the device that actually has all these negative things too.
Yeah, and the device that's distracting you at the same time.
So yeah, I read first the Digital Minimalism, and then I ordered the Ryder Carroll book about the bullet journal method. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start digital minimalism and bullet journaling. And I made a plan, but I think I messed up with the digital minimalism plan. I made it too much, which actually the guy says in the book, don't make too strict rules because you're going to fall out. And while I did, I'm going to be... I think when I want to do something, I feel like I need to punish myself, like you've been like... I'm like punishing myself, literally.
Yeah, you're like, it has to hurt for it to work.
Yeah, but
that's counterproductive. That's like...
It has to hurt, but not too much.
This isn't like smoking, where you say you're not supposed to phase it out. You're supposed to stop cold turkey. This isn't the same thing.
Yeah, but
I remember you showed me your plan, and that digital detox plan is in the kitchen, and and I was thinking, wow, he's really going to cut back on a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's going to hurt real bad.
Yeah, the thing is that there are a lot of suggestions in the book of digital minimalism which are really good. And one of the suggestions is like join stuff, which means join sports clubs, I don't know. Something that you cannot do right now. Or I cannot be like after work be like, hey Bambi, let's go out, or
let's distract ourselves from being distracted.
Let's do something else, because here is winter, so it's cold AF, and second, it's really not suggested to go out because everything is closed. So I think I'm gonna review those things and tweak them in a better way.
But on the other hand, so I went cold turkey too, like a little over a year ago. And I didn't really do a digital detox. I did more like an internet detox, where I didn't have any internet for 2 months. And so I couldn't watch Netflix. I couldn't check anything at home. And it was really bad. And the first 2 weeks were really painful. Like I wanted to seriously kill myself every evening. I was so bored. But then it does get better. So I think you just have to really, and he writes that in the book. He says the first 2 weeks are hard and you are going to want to, kill yourself out of boredom. But then it does get better because you have to just get out of that behavior, that pattern pit. And for me, it really helped. Like after 2 weeks, it was like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm listening more to that music that I downloaded. And I read so much more too, and actually go to bed early too, get some sleep.
Yeah, and I remember that the pandemic started and we needed to beg downstairs to your neighbor to give us some internet. But that's
true.
Another story.
That's another story, yeah. But I'm just saying, I think the first 2 weeks, it's really hard.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I don't know. I wasn't strong enough. The plan wasn't made in a good way, but I'm gonna try again. But the thing is that I was like, again, you are sort of not. You need to punish yourself. So I was like, okay, the bullet journal, the digital minimalism didn't work out. So I'm gonna keep up with the bullet journaling. And I'm gonna do this right. So I decided, okay, first I'm gonna read the whole book, and I'm gonna understand, the whole overview. Because the thing I want to say here is that, first of all, we're not paid to do this for any book or any method. It's something that I've done already in the past. And if you want to start bullet journaling, you don't have to buy the book. Actually, you can just go on. I think we're going to add links in the description, but you can go on YouTube on the channel about the bullet journal method, or you can go in the official website and you can, I think, download PDFs and for the basics in many languages. And you can start in any notebook. You don't have to buy the official notebook. I thought just, the notebook, I wanted to buy this notebook because I thought I'm gonna see how it's set up, the original one, so that in the future, if I want to switch to another brand or another kind of notebook, because I like also other notebooks, I will set it up based on this one. So that was also my idea. And I was like, okay, and I also want to listen to read the whole story, so that I can see how he uses this notebook actually. And there were some very useful point of views in the book, because I've seen some of mindsets he used while using the book, and he was giving also suggestions about topics that actually ruined my journaling habit in the past, which is don't try to keep your bullet journal perfect, because it's not what it is about to be perfect.
Yeah. And that's what I thought was interesting, or what positively surprised me, was that it's not only a, productivity or goal achieving method. It's actually, he does include a lot of, topics and chapters that have to do with in generals, like what are your life goals and how do they change over time and things like that. So aspects in general to actually living a good life in some way. That sounds a little cheesy, but so that was really surprising for me. I kind of like that. Yeah,
I'm like, and here I want to say something like, I'm not a guy that's into these practices like, oh my God, I'm going to journal, and I don't know. I've heard
be aware. Conscious.
Tim Ferriss does like the 5-minute journals and the thank you notes, and I don't know if it's called thank you notes and stuff like that, but where he's like writing down gratitude, whatever. But I was like, yeah, I'm very skeptical towards those things, and I was also very skeptical about buying a book which costs, I don't know how many, it was probably 15 euros, I don't know. about journaling. I was like, why do you need a book about journaling? Just get a notebook and journal.
Yeah, make little boxes and to-dos and lists, and bam, you got it.
Or do Notion. But when I read the book and I started, remembering all the things that I have read in the past already, I now define this book like an algorithm for your brain to be like focused and kept accountable. So to explain the general, I'm not going to explain how the book, like the journaling works, because it's very difficult to explain on a podcast because you need a little bit of visual support. It can be slides or videos. You can decide yourself with which pace you want to get to know this method, but I'll check out the links below in the description, so you're going to see it. But I'm going to explain that there are different kind of logs. So there is your daily log, there is like the monthly log, and then there is the future log. And then in the beginning of the journal, there are indexes where you write down the pages where you different things write. And when you get a little bit advanced, you can start also working on your different projects in your notebook or whatever. You can do, for example, he makes a lot of examples about planning your holidays, planning, I don't know.
Project he has in there.
Learning skills, even recording your, fitness. You can do everything. It's sort of an open source algorithm for journaling, which you can adapt to your necessity. And once you have figured out these logs, the different tasks can be transitioned between the different logs. So it's sort of, that's why I say algorithm, because you have to follow precise processes.
Like a method, yeah.
Yeah, the method.
You have to keep the method going, or else it's not going to get you anything.
Yeah, and when you see the video and maybe read the first time, like the introduction of like all the points, it sounds a little confusing actually, because they are like, it sounds, oh my God, this is too much work. Yeah. But once you set up whatever journal you want to start, it slowly start to make sense.
Yeah, but I think what's important to say here is that I think journaling is such a confusing term, maybe because everybody understands something else under it. So it's not a diary or anything, but it's not a to-do list either. I think you really have to look at it from the viewpoint that it's about actually reaching your goals, and it's about making yourself be accountable to yourself. Because that's the thing that's hard with, we were talking about it before, with starting the year and actually getting things done, is you have to be accountable to yourself to actually do those things and take action.
It's sort of structuring and collecting your thoughts to me, because it's like, in the beginning of the year, everybody do like the New Year's resolution and whatever they say.
Gonna do more sport. I'm gonna get a raise. I'm gonna call my granny more often.
I'm gonna start a business, and then the next year they didn't do anything, and then it starts over again. And
you have to organize yourself and structure yourself. Yeah,
and this is what is for me the added value from the book, because in the free resources, there are different people. There are people who are very resourceful, so they get the free. You can go also on Reddit, on Instagram, on YouTube. There are other people, not the author, but other people who are. It's sort of a community. It's kind of crazy. It's like it's like CrossFit. People think they belong to this movement, which they share their own personalized methods and tweaks and whatever. But what I like through this system is that when in the book he tells you, okay, this is your big goal, and he actually gives you like sort of questions that you should ask yourself when starting, a project, or another cool thing is the reflection. The reflection is like moments in your day when you open you sit with your bullet journal, and you go through, the daily tasks and see what you have done, what has happened, some notes you have taken. And then you have this time to think, okay, why didn't I do this? Maybe, for example, the first time I started journaling, for me the problem was that every day I was very optimistic, and I was optimistic because I did the error, I read a lot of, books, biographies, and among others was the biography of Elon Musk. And when you read what Elon Musk does in a day, you think, oh my God, I'm like a bullshit guy because this guy does...
I'm so lazy.
I'm so lazy. He does so much. And if he does it, I always think, I have this mindset, if there is like some human being that's doing this, it means I can do it too. Because...
Well, yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, that's just one thing that you let pressure yourself. I do think that people have to find the rhythm, but yeah. But anyway, so you were thinking you were lazy compared to Elon.
Yeah, but I also thought, no, I have to do more. And I put a bunch of, a bunch of to-dos every day. And then, of course, I didn't manage to do all of them. And then the next day too, and the next day too, and the next day too. And after like 3, 4, 5 days, I was like, yeah, I have all the to-dos that I have to redo. So I'm just going to stop bullet journaling. I'm just going to look back in the days, but I stopped bullet journaling. And then, I felt off track.
Well, you know what they say. They always say start small. And I mean, that's what you've been telling me too. I mean, I'm learning a language right now. You're like, start small. It's okay. It's the little victories. And I think we all forget that when we're in the process of doing it, because we start a new project and like you say, you accessorize, you get ready for it. And then you want to overachieve. Like, I think each of us wants that.
Yeah. And I think that we now live in this, video era where we watch everything on video, and like the videos are like trailers, or like all these videos about how people are super productive and they walk through their co-working space, and then
but you only see one side of it. That's the thing. It's like you like also on Instagram or anywhere on LinkedIn, you only see the one specially curated personality image that people are curating for you. And I mean, that's great. That's everybody's right to put themselves in the best light. But on the other hand, you have to remember that's just like maybe 5% what went right,
Yeah. So. Or also the same thing when you meet somebody and they tell you like, what you're doing for a living. And then you describe your jobs to them, like your job is the most awesome and the most, cool job ever. And then in reality, you don't do that. Anything. It's just an office place where you have your problems, or your daily life. Like, I don't know, when people, for example, because I come from Italy and Bulgaria, and like people hear, oh, you live in Frankfurt. Oh, that's so cool. So awesome. But in the end of the day, it's nothing special. It's just, another city. So
yeah. But I want to get back to one thing that Ryder describes really well. It's like the kind of goals or the kind of to-dos that we set. Oftentimes you write down, okay, let's just take an example, lose weight. I want to lose 10 pounds or something, or whatever. And that's just so unconcrete. That's not really something that you can actually do. If in contrast, if you write, okay, I am not going to eat any cookies today. That's, that's super concrete, super detailed. That's tangible. You can do that easier. And I think I really like that aspect to describe not the end result, but the process. Like, for example, connect more with your family. It's like, okay, but what does that really mean? It means I'm going to call my grandmother every Sunday, or today I'm going to text my sister because, I don't know, her 4-year-old his birthday or something like that.
Yeah, but before this, he also, what I like, he suggests you to focus on your purpose or why you're doing this thing. So why do I want to lose 10 pounds? Do I want to lose these 10 pounds because I'm trying to get after a girl, which when she's not there anymore, it's
fall
not
back,
or you want to be healthier. It's like, and when you're healthier, you're doing it for yourself. And then another thing he says in the book is like, he tells you, okay, do sprints, do like, set up the first thing, the smallest thing you can do towards that goal. just to build up this momentum, because
Yeah.
once you have written down what to do in your bullet journal, and or whatever, if you use just a normal paper of 10 to-dos, and then you write 10 to-dos, and every time you cross one like done, it feels so good.
Yeah, you have to also see the little successes. And the whole fact that it's analog and it's written is something that I personally love. Like, I've always journaled. I even today, if I just develop something for work or for a client, I always do it on paper first, because that's just, I don't know, I feel I can structure my thoughts better if I sketch it out or write it on paper or organize it on a paper or formulate it somehow, because the fact that I'm having to write it, it goes through my brain, it's analyzed, it's contextualized, and then it's put down. And I feel the fact that this is not a digital thing is actually very, very good for us. I mean, I've journaled in some other way for years now, and I find purely the fact of having a challenge or a problem and analyzing it on paper in writing is super, super helpful to actually understand where the problem is coming from.
Yeah, that's true. And another advantage you have when it's analog is that you're not forced within, a software. You have to click there, drag here. You want to do something, but to do it, you need to figure it out. It's more mechanical when you start on a software. For example, when I started with Notion, which is cool, and we now use it for certain things, because I can tell a couple of things for which, for me personally, the bullet journal is not working that well. But like, just the simple fact that you open a notebook and you can actually write whatever you want in order you want, or sketch something, and it's just your mind going through your hand. Yeah. It's very good. What, for example, for me personally, where the limitation of the bullet journal is that if you're working on a project with your team, you cannot share the bullet journal.
Yeah, especially not nowadays, where you don't have like a blackboard where you can do to-dos or a timeline, because you don't have a space where you're all meeting to discuss something. So
and like posting like picture in some cloud also of the bullet journal is not that,
or
that
to
cool.
discuss digital files. Well, I think it's not a project management tool or administration tool. That's true. It's really sort of, I think it's like you say, it's like an analog algorithm to sort of keep your direction straight.
Yeah, it's sort of like GPS for your goals in your mind.
Yeah,
and for your state of mind.
Yeah.
But also what I don't use the bullet journal for is like when I read books and I digest them by, reading. And like when I see something, I first maybe read, and then when I see something, it's really, really useful concept for me, I write it in a notebook.
See, that's interesting. That's actually something I do put in my main journal. That if I say, okay, this is an interesting insight, I actually write that down in that main journal that I have. Because I found, like, before I read the book too, and I used like different notebooks for different things, like, for example, insights and interesting things like you just said, and then the personal things and to-dos, and it was just so many notebooks to keep track of. And yeah, so I think it's interesting that for that you use a different one. But why? Why do you do that?
Because for that one, I think that the books I read can be the source of my digital content. And so this is why I use the Galaxy tablet with the pen.
Oh, okay.
Because then when you write with the pen in your Galaxy tablet notes, then those handwritten notes you can directly transform into typed text.
Oh, okay. Because you want to share that later with the audience.
And then I think if I like lose my bullet journal, it's okay. It would be bad, but if I lose like the notes about books that took me so long, to read. Because in the past I did the same, and now I'm very disorganized. You know that I'm very like cluttered, and it's a disaster. Yeah, it's a disaster. And then I don't know, the digital thing forces me to write a little bit more legible, and I don't know. I feel better with that, and it's also on a cloud. So, for example, sometimes when I'm somewhere and I have just my phone with me, I can still open my phone and check quickly my notes about the book.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. Yeah.
And because I feel these books I'm reading, they're like sort of a companion of ideas, which I can always, it's sort of like I'm doing my own portfolio of concepts. Because I read a lot of business books, a lot of, I don't know, method books, or I'm more like into this
development and learning, and
not only development, but for example, currently I'm reading Super Thinking, which is super cool, and that's not a self-help book. It's a book about thinking, about how you think.
Yeah, he includes studies from various scientists and neurologists and everything. So yeah, he has a very wide compilation in there.
Yeah.
I think alone the appendix is really long. It's a few pages.
Yeah, for example, to sum up the digital minimalism book, it took me like 5-6 pages. And
in notes, you mean?
In notes, and this one I'm not even through the half, and it's already like 20.
I think because that book as is just, a compendium of everything you need to know to understand why you think like you do and how to, supercharge your brain patterns.
And I think that those kind of books, because not everybody reads books. For example, we have had on the podcast some people that read books, some people don't. Like, for example, I remember Eric de Broche-de-Combe from Luxigon, who he's very successful guy, but he said, "Oh no, I don't read books. I just do." But he's like more a doer, and I was always a doer. But then I found out some books like Super Thinking. You read through the book and you think, "Oh yeah, I know that, but I didn't know that." Like
you can name it. It's like you can put a label on it.
Yeah, like this happened to me, but I didn't know it's that what was happening. And yeah, for me that the bullet journal, it wouldn't be optimal for that, because it's gonna be very breakdown through the different, because you have every day a daily log, and then that would break the continuity of, and I wouldn't have access from everywhere on it. But the thing here is that the whole concept of this podcast is that we wanted people to take action.
Yeah, get started. Be accountable, or start being more accountable than last year, maybe.
Yeah, so
if that was an issue for you guys too.
If for you wasn't an issue, great. You can
chapeau.
Yeah, like you're that douche that says, "Oh no, I'm super perfect." But
no. It's just
no. Okay, there are some people are more productive, or
they just gave themselves more of an ass kick,
or more disciplined.
Yeah.
But for the ones who are not, or just maybe are, but this was a very particular time of our lives and of humanity. We don't say that you have to start bullet journaling. We will suggest you to go visit the method to try out. We'll link videos and like links where you can inform yourself about the method. But you can do independently from that a little exercise that we got partly from the bullet journal method book, and partly from I add something that
you tweaked it.
I tweaked it a little bit because last year, in the beginning of the year, as I said, we were planning a lot of things, and we did like a bucket list. And then from that bucket list, I did one thing this year.
Yes, and that was a podcast.
Oh yeah, 2 things then.
Okay.
So I did the podcast. I started a podcast, and I did the Rubik's Cube.
Oh right, the Rubik's Cube.
So I did 2. Even in the worst year of my life, I did 2 bucket list goals, so I can die better than before. Anyways, so in the book we have this exercise, which I did. When I read it, I felt stupid, very stupid. But while doing it, it was like kind of interesting experience. And again, I'm someone that is very, very skeptical about those kind of, journaling, meditational, self-awareness stuff that you can find on the internet. But this one was very interesting, and I suggest all the listeners to do it for themselves, because while doing it, you don't know, you have something in your mind happening. At least for me was this. So you have to take your time. If you don't have a journal, you can take any kind of
piece of paper or something.
Paper, A4, A3, whatever. Take more than one, because if you're a big writer, you will need a little bit of more. I did it more in a bullet form, because the guy in the book was like, try imagine it and did in bullet form.
Yeah,
but you can
be brief. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to imagine you're at the end of your life, and you have to write down the tale of your life, and you will write 2 versions of your life. The first tale will be called the life of the well-worn path. In this life, you have to imagine that for you, comfort was always before risk. So you were lazy, you were chilling, you were,
Wait, comfort and lazy is not the same thing.
Okay,
you have to differentiate.
Okay,
that.
not lazy, but comfortable, like avoiding risks.
Or too great risk, or isn't it also more like you take the path that everybody knows and that you're supposed to take, like the typical,
or the path of least resistance.
Yeah, exactly. You study, you get the job, you keep the job.
Yeah, but for example, like you get your first job, you never change your job, because what if,
or you stay in that industry from what you studied, because it would be,
you don't start your business because starting a business is...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it's more that. It's like,
it's
the path of least resistance.
Whatever, we say the comfort is always before risk. People would have to interpret whatever they consider that. I'm just summarizing what is written in the book in a very, So in the end I also add some questions here, so you can write it answering this question. At the end of this life, what will you have learned? Which places will you have visited? What will you have achieved in your professional career? What have you done for your community? What events will you have experienced? How your professional life have developed? And then you imagine this thing, and you write the tale about this this question. If you want, I'll write just the questions for the exercise in the description. So if you need, because listening to my voice and doing the exercise, it can be very hard. So just go in the description, and there will be like questions for the exercise, and they will be listed. And then finish the first tale, and now reset on the same paper if you have space, or another paper, and write a second tale, which is the tale of the life of the path less traveled, where risk is over comfort. And then you answer again the same questions, or try to build a story which answers those. Doesn't need to be like a list. And then once you're finished, take your time. For example, to me, it took me approximately half an hour to write down the both tales. And then after you finished, stop writing, put your pencil somewhere away, and don't put your pencil away. Take it with you and reread both tales before doing anything. And after you have read them, consider how you have felt about what you have achieved in one life and in the other. In my case, was more likely that I liked one better than the other. Maybe you like a little bit of one, a little bit of the other. Doesn't matter. Cross what makes you feel good, like stuff that you have achieved or that you have done that makes you feel good. And those things you have circled will be your bucket list. And here is where my idea of tweaking this exercise comes, is that you can take now, if you have a journal, you can take one spread of the journal, 2 pages, divide them in these 6, split it into 6 equal parts, where you're going to write in column the categories learn, visit, achieve, community, experience, and personal. From which are the same of the questions you have answered. And then you categorize the circled parts of your tail. And this is your bucket list. But now you're going to do, usually you're going to, like bucket list also is something like resolutions. I'm going to do this, but when nobody knows.
Yeah, and there's sometimes like, oh, I'm going to go to New Zealand just because it sounds cool, but it's not really that important to you.
Yeah. So beside all these columns, you made, on the side of the column of the different categories of bucket points, you do 3 columns, and the first column will be to do, the middle one be doing, and the third one will be done. Because of course in the tails you can also consider stuff that you have already done in your life. If you are proud about something that you have achieved in your past, you can still put it in the tail.
But probably everything's going to be in to do that you want to achieve, because that's just more likely.
No, but you have to do, which is to be done. Doing, so you will need to decide what you're going to start doing first.
Yeah, exactly.
And then done. But no, because some people have, proud of their graduation. Or I already started a podcast. So that was something that I'm happy about. And I think that actually having a couple of those that you have done already, it's good. Because it makes you feel you've done already something.
Yeah, little successes.
But then, for example, in the current times, you're not going to be able probably to work on your visit and experience part, because that will include places you want to visit, and now traveling is difficult. And experiences like concerts. For example, I want to go watch a stand-up comedy show of Joe Rogan. I want to watch Bulgarian stand-up comedy. And this is currently not possible. So you put that on to do. But what you can focus on is like personal career, learning. You can go directly on doing those things. And then you pick really what you want to start with and why. And then afterwards, you can make a plan. And to make it even more proactive for the people who are listening to the podcast, you'll then do another exercise from the book, which is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you'll take another paper, or if it's the journal, you go to the next page. Divide the page in 5 spreads. Yeah, and so once you have divided the paper, like the page in 5 spreads, and you have written the numbers on the top, you'll take some of the bullet points from your bucket list, and the one that you put on the top is the one that you want to achieve in 5 years. Then you have on the 4, you have to think about, for example, tasks towards those goals. So task for this year you want to achieve in 4 months. Under the number 3, you set a task for the next 3 weeks, or tasks you have to decide. Then the number 2 is in 2 days, what you can do in the next 2 days that you wanted to do. And 1 is in 1 hour, which can be, for example, for me was clean the kitchen.
Oh, I like that task.
Yeah. So this is the goal. We want you to take this action, to try out. We hope that it will be a helpful exercise for you. Again, I repeat, it sounded very, very stupid to me. So if you feel it's like stupid, it's normal. It's okay. It happens to everyone. It happened to me too. But it's nothing to lose about. So try out.
But I actually thought it was cool, because if you think about it, you think, oh yeah, of course I know what I want to achieve in 5 years. And then you actually have to write it down, and you sort of sit there going like, what was it again? What do I really, really want to achieve in 5 years? And you really have to think about it and be more critical.
But I think also writing the tales about imagining you dying, it's like makes you aware about the fact that you're going to die, and also that, that it's...
You have to live your life well and just make the most out of it.
Exactly.
Especially if you were like, I don't know, like me last year, where I was just waiting for the pandemic to just be more clear, or for something. It's just, it makes you see how silly that is, really.
Yes, I think so too. And it creates this urgency in you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like if I have to start now because it's gonna suck if I don't achieve that in the end of my life.
Yeah, and I'm maybe going to be disappointed in myself too. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
but
example,
I think it really is like, sorry, but it's, and I can't stress this enough, that it's really about getting yourself going, being more accountable, actually formulating and writing down what you really want to do and how you want to get there. What is the process to actually get there? Not only what you want to achieve, but how you actually want to do that.
exactly. And I think that the best part is that you first set up like some small steps. Like, okay, I want to start a business. So what business you want to start? Or what do I need for starting this business? What I can do about it now? How can I test this idea?
I think that's a crucial thing you just mentioned. How can I test this idea if it's going to work? And because often, especially if we are talking about starting businesses or going down new career paths, you have this idea in your head and it's new and it's daunting, and you think, oh, this is definitely the right thing. This is it. And you don't test it with anybody because unconsciously, probably you're afraid that nice, shiny thing you have in your head, that's not going to be, might not be the right thing, but you at least want to try it. And I think the whole thing of testing your ideas, with people, maybe with peers or with people that you think might want this business or this creative product that you're creating is very important, especially at an early stage, because then you can see, okay, what do I need to fine tune, and what do I need to change completely? Maybe it's a total waste of time because, I don't know, now that I've started developing it, it's not that cool.
Yeah, but also, like by testing your ideas, I meant also something like, okay, you have an idea, which is just, sort of your own imagination,
Yeah.
a supposition, like a theory, a thesis. You do a thesis and you need to test it. But sometimes also people, say, oh, I'm going to test this. It sounds awesome. They try for 2 days. It doesn't work. Oh, it's a shitty idea. No, you have to, also know that for each thing, you have to set yourself like, okay, I'm going to test this for maybe 1 year or 2 years. And
Depending on the idea, yeah.
Yeah, but I say for myself that at the end of my life, I want to have lived with the least what ifs in my life. So people shouldn't consider testing an idea time like waste of time, but just, you have to invest time to actually don't miss what you have in your mind. And
yeah, but it's also, you get to know yourself and your skills better. Because only if you start testing things, you understand, is that really what I'm good at or what I can do or what I want to do?
And I think that people fear more success than unsuccess because, like, if you succeed, then you will change, you'll be a different person. And but think about it, like try out. And if you succeed, you can, embrace the change. If you don't succeed, you're still where you are now, just with a little bit more of experience.
But I liked what you said I think that's one thing. I think we can put this whole conversation that we're having under the headline of the least what ifs possible at the end of your life. I really like that when you said that the other day too. It's really nice.
Yeah. And then I want to conclude maybe with a very nice concept I read. Like this book for me was, I don't know, it's not a must-have. So I liked it because I liked it, but it's my personal opinion. But what I really loved about this book, it's that, he has also like the chapter where he explains, so I can explain a little bit. The book is divided in, I think, 4 parts. I have here the book with me. So let's see how it is exactly divided. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So the first part is preparation, where you can read it in not even a day. It's a couple of hours. And the first part is about, the method and how it's was created and stuff like that. Then the second part, it's around 50 pages where the whole system is explained. And then you have the part 3 is the practice, where he has a lot of practices he suggests to use in the book. And then in the part 4 there is the art, how, for example, different people are using the journal for them, and and then there is a conclusion with other topics like that, frequent asked questions, thank you notes, and stuff like that. But in the part 3, when there is a practice, there are a lot of methods that you can take notes about different topics, and like it's sort of a productivity self-help book adapted into this algorithm and how you can use it. And there is one concept I really like, and again I was surprised because it comes from the Japanese philosophy or view on life, which I'm not really not really interested in it, but this concept was very fascinating to me, because the concept is called Kaizen, and he says, on the contrary of what our Western society suggests, is always to disrupt yourself, to start over, crash and restart over. He says, no, we shouldn't start over every time. So this whole podcast wasn't to say that people should completely disrupt themselves now, but they should adopt this mindset, which Kaizen means, Kai means change and Zen means good, which also literally translated means constant improvement. So this is the first step for you to get some momentum, some speed of making little baby steps every day and get better little by little. And I want to say that I wasn't successful at my digital minimalism, but by doing my bullet journal and executing my to-dos, and sometimes I was again very optimistic and I put too many to-dos, and then when I saw they were starting summing up, I was like, one day I have few to do, and one of the to-dos is check past to-dos, and then I go through my past to-dos, and sometimes it happens during the day that I do some side stuff, I clean the floor, or I clean the kitchen, or I go do the grocery. So maybe I didn't have that on the to-do, but
you did it, yeah.
But I did it, so I put it in the end of my day, so that even if I didn't do enough from what I was planning to, I still have this side to-dos I have done.
Yeah, sort of like a hack, yeah.
So I feel still better about myself.
But Kaizen, it's such a much more positive word than disrupt. I don't know. I've always had a problem with the word disrupt in general, because it's such an aggressive, shattering, negative word.
Yeah, I think this is our, bigger, louder, better philosophy.
Yeah, it is very Western in that way. There's not a lot of kindness to it.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's because disruption, the way we see it, is always very, high risk, high insecurity. There's just we're being disrupted. Help.
Or no, just disrupt yourself. What I have done so far. I just
that aspect
smash
too.
it and I leave. Or
it's that wasn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly. So this was some of the things that I learned from this book. I'm doing now the bullet journaling for 17 days, which is my longest run. Tomorrow I'm gonna do it too. So tomorrow it's gonna be the 18th day. So I suggest you to start somewhere. I hope you will do the exercise, and then if you want, feel free to feedback us for if you need help to understand it better, because we know that the podcast medium is not the best to explain something like this. Maybe we can do also an Instagram post about it, so that you can see it more visual.
See what the columns look like. Yeah, I think that would help probably.
Yeah, Instagram and LinkedIn. So this is another reason why you should follow the channel. And also, we want to hear your opinion if you like this kind of podcast where I have also my co-host with me and where we, break down some topics that goes through our life as creatives and in general as like people. So feel free to write on our pages or on Instagram or on Facebook, or now we have the email, the hello@thecreativeinsider.com.
Yes.
You'll find everything in the link. And another thing we want to conclude is that we know that long-form podcast is our favorite because it gives us the time to develop these ideas or to hear the stories of our guests. But also for you, it's maybe time-consuming. And we, differently from other media, we don't want to have your attention constantly. We say this is sort of like your favorite object. You can pick it when you want and put it down when you want. So if you want to, stay up to date with what is going on with the podcast and the different podcasts, you can go on thecreativeinsider.com and join our email list, our newsletter, and we will be sending each month sort of a sum up of what happened in the last 4 episodes or in the
some highlights.
Some highlights. So if you have listened already to the podcast, you have sort of a fixed record of what you have heard. If you haven't, you have an overview and you can decide maybe one episode for you is more interesting than the other, so you can decide. So yeah, I suggest you to join this newsletter, and it's also not so invasive. It's once a month, so you won't be like...
Yes, we want to respect your inbox.
Exactly. So yeah, so Désirée, thank you for co-hosting this episode of the Creative Insider.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure again.
I think you will be more often in the podcast because you give this great colloquial partner, which is nice to have, and you have different point of views than me, which is also interesting.
I think that's one of the important aspects of collaborating with someone, that you have different opinions.
So thank you very much. And I guess we'll see each other next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Just like that. Just like that. Just like that. Just like that.